right. As we discussed in our groups, we are going to start with JavaScript today, and we are supposed to complete JavaScript as well in a month. And once we shall actually be learning JavaScript while also implementing anything related to JavaScript in our capstone projects. And all the instructions are provided in the document that you received when you started. So please be very attentive. To some of you, it is your first time to even see the syntax of JavaScript, and to others, it is not your first time. Some of you are already familiar with JavaScript. But please, let's move on together and let's make sure that we understand each and every step. All right, so I can hear some echo. I'm actually going to be muting. I think somebody is unmuted. All right. All right, so we are going to look at an introduction to JavaScript. We are mainly going to focus on what is JavaScript, what JavaScript can do, and where is JavaScript executed, what we call the environments. And we are also going to look at the difference between JavaScript and ECMAScript, because some people do confuse this, but they do have a relation. So JavaScript in general, it is a programming language, and it is very popular. So first of all, JavaScript is a high-level, dynamic, and versatile programming language. It was created in 1995 by a programmer called Brendan, and it also runs directly in web browsers as well. It can also run as a server language when we're using Node. We shall later on understand what Node.js is as we move on. And JavaScript is interpreted, event-driven, and supports asynchronous programming. For those of you who do not know asynchronous programming, do not get worried, because we are going to go through all of this step by step. So, in general, as I said, JavaScript runs through browsers, and as you can see it here, I think this heading is actually wrong. We were supposed to have environment for JavaScript, but it's okay. So JavaScript can run in a browser, as we all know. Some of us already know. So JavaScript 1 can run in a browser. When we say a browser, these are the browsers we already know: Chrome, Internet Explorer, Mozilla Firefox, and so on. So through running in the browser, it can only run in the browser when it gets to interact with some HTML and CSS, and it's mostly used for some interactivity. So on the browser, JavaScript is mostly used to handle some user events like clicks, submissions, and other many, as we will see. And as well, it can be used to validate some form data that will be submitted on our server. And it's sometimes also used to create some animations and also handle some multimedia or handle files in general. And it can also be used to fetch asynchronous data. Mic check, do we have anybody with a problem? Because I can hear somebody's mic is open. I think I'll go ahead and mute them if there is no question. All right. So now, as I said, we were supposed to have, let me actually change this one. Let me change this heading. It's better. JavaScript environment. To not confuse some of you. And it's the same heading that we shall have here. Yes. So we've seen one environment, which is the browser. So the second environment is outside the browser. When we say outside the browser, it is probably in a server. So we use JavaScript to create backend functionalities. And those backend functionalities are not actually running through the server or running in the server, but rather running outside the server, what we can call a server, outside the browser, what we can call a server. So JavaScript is not only used in browsers, but as well also on the server side. So a long time ago, JavaScript was mainly used on the browser, or it was mainly created for the browser, not to run outside the browser. But later on, when Node.js was introduced, that is when now JavaScript started being run in what we call a server-side uh, environment. So using Node.js, we shall actually learn what Node.js is and do not get worried. So that is number one on the server. And also JavaScript can also run sort of like natively within mobiles. An example for that is a framework called React Native. React Native is used to create mobile applications. And therefore, you understand it's not running in a browser because mobile applications do not run in a browser. They are running natively on a mobile OS or on a mobile operating system. So they can also run in desktop applications. So there are so many applications that we're using that are running that were actually developed using JavaScript, and they are not running in a browser specifically, applications, desktop application to be more specific. Most of you have been using an application called Slack. Slack was created using a framework called Electron, and this is a framework of JavaScript. Therefore, that is JavaScript running outside the browser, specifically running as a desktop application, then running on a desktop operating system. And also JavaScript can be used to create some games, like a framework called Phaser.js. So it is used to create games, but even though JavaScript is not popularly known for games, but it can also do games. Also JavaScript, even though it is not well known for AI, but it can also be used for AI. Some of the frameworks include TensorFlow. This is a very popular framework that is used in machine learning, and this is JavaScript. So those are the environment that JavaScript can be running. You understand that it can run both on the front-end side, which is the browser, and it can as well run on the server-side environment or server-side environment to make it more clear. So not only in a browser, but as well in a server. And it can also run natively on mobile application, desktop, on mobile devices, desktop devices, and as well as some other devices that are used for gaming. Yes. Now, let us see the JavaScript execution environments. So as we've been in details now, as we've been looking at it, so we've seen that it can run on a browser, what we call a client side, which is the opposite of a server side. So on a browser side, these are like Chrome's, Firefox, and to mention a few, as we already explained this. And how is JavaScript able to run in two browsers? So JavaScript is able to run in two browsers because of what we call a V8 engine. So this was an engine created specifically for Chrome. V8 is created for specifically for Chrome because even other browsers have other engines that are supporting JavaScript. Like Firefox has what we call SpiderMonkey, and so many other browsers have their own engines that are allowing them to run JavaScript. And these engines are called JavaScript engines. So they help us to execute JavaScript codes, as we shall see in short, how we can have a browser run some JavaScript codes directly through it. We shall actually see that one. So those engines are the ones who are helping us, or which are helping us to be able to execute JavaScript in the browser. And on the server side, JavaScript is able to run there because of an environment or a runtime environment system called Node.js. So Node.js is not a programming language. Most of the people do confuse it as a programming language. So this is a runtime environment. This is an environment set to run JavaScript outside the browser, not in the browser. So we shall understand more of what do you mean when you say JavaScript can run outside the browser, and what do you mean when you say JavaScript can run in the browser. We shall get to know that when we start experiencing that practically, in short. And as we explained, it can also run beyond servers and beyond browsers, like natively in some other platforms for mobile, for for desktops, and so on. So as we've been seeing it. So another thing, what is the difference between JavaScript and ECMAScript? I know to some of you, it's not your first time to hear about the word ECMAScript or ES. So we have ES5, ES6, ES7, and so on. So what is the difference between that? Because ECMAScript is also considered as JavaScript. So JavaScript itself is a programming language. I need you guys to understand this clearly. JavaScript itself is a programming language. And ECMAScript is a standardized specification. Or in other words, these are just certain standards set to work with the programming language, right? So some of the versions that are well known, these are ECMAScript 6 or ES6. This was a version or a standard that was set in 2015, but being set in 2015 doesn't mean it is no longer used. This is the one that we are mostly using because this is the version or the standard that can be interpreted by most of the engines of the browser, right? So we mostly like to use a version or a standard that can be interpreted easily by all the browsers, because if we are creating an application or a website, we are thinking even the people who are still using older versions of browsers. So at least of now, ES6 can be understood or can be executed by different browsers with different versions, older browsers and newer browsers. So there are also different other versions of ECMAScript. There is ES7, there is ES8. So to be more specific, we are mostly using ES5 and ES6 because they can easily be run by the browsers or the JavaScript engines within the browsers. So key takeaway on JavaScript and ECMAScript, understand JavaScript as a programming language that implements certain standards, and those standards are classified as ECMAScript versions, which is why we have ECMAScript 6, ECMAScript 7, ECMAScript 5, which are most of the times shortened to ES. ES is ECMAScript. So, but again, you need also to note that some features, JavaScript has even other features that are beyond that standardization. But most of the features or most of the functionalities that we use are most in also the standard. We all know how standards work. You all know what we call here in Rwanda Standard Board. It doesn't mean that whatever standards Rwanda Standard Board has are the only ones that can be executed in the country. There are also other ones which are not even yet registered. So the same to JavaScript and ECMAScript. All right, so now we're going to see it in practice. First of all, we are going to see how we should set our JavaScript environment. We are going to be using the same editor that we have been using with HTML and CSS. So you shouldn't get bothered. It's the same setup still. So I'll just go ahead and close this. Then I'll go to my terminal. I'll try to enlarge this so that you can see this. So we are going now to CD to our desktop or where we have our environment for programming. Most of us, it is already on the desktop in full stack dev. We already have different things in full stack dev, and it looks like these are too many. Let us specifically create now a folder inside for JavaScript to not mix a lot of things. So I'll just create a folder called JavaScript, then I'll cd. And to it, as I'm doing this, please, you should be doing the same thing. This is the simplest things which I understand everyone, or which I expect everyone to be knowing. So what I just did, I just went into my browser, my coding environment, which is in the full stack dev, which is also a folder stored on my desktop. I don't know for you guys where you stored it, but all I know, everyone should have a full stack dev folder, because that is what we agreed as our environment directory. So I just created in another new folder called JavaScript. And when you want to bring back your history of some of the commands you run, you should always use the keys. As you know, on your laptop, on your keyboard, you have the left key, the right key, the upper key, and the lower key. So you can always press the upper key to bring back all the history of some of the commands you've been running. Or you can as well write this keyword, history, to see the commands you've just run recently, right? So please always be well informed of some shortcuts you can use so that you can get what you want. So in programming, it's all about speed, and it's all about using the shortest or the shorthands possible to achieve a certain task. So I'll just go ahead within the JavaScript folder. I'm going to create in another folder, and I'll call it intro to JavaScript, to JS. We usually use JS. So then I'll cd into the intro to JS. Then I'll open it using code dot as a command that we saw that it is used to open the current directory. The dot means current, and code is a command for VS Code. It is not available in our computers out of the box. It is only available when you have VS Code installed. So then we do code and a dot, which means we are going to open this intro to JS or here in our VS Code. If I press enter, then I should have this opened in my VS Code like this, right? So let me just give you 30 seconds to have everyone put this at least in place. And if you have already opened this in your VS Code, please type the word OK in our chat, as we normally do. I'll just stop recording for 30 seconds to have you guys create these folders and so on and have it open in your VS Code. All right, so if we all have the folder intro to JS opened in our VS Code, then we can create in like the folder of index. Let us create in a file of index.html. And we put in some boilerplate. Once we are done putting in some boilerplate, remember a shorthand for putting in a boilerplate, it's just an exclamation mark, or you just type in HTML and choose HTML5. I hope everyone is used to this. So as we are learning JavaScript, of course, JavaScript will be interacting with our HTML. So therefore, we are also going to be getting back to our normal HTML. And this is a chance for all of you guys who are not yet stable in HTML. This is a chance for you to level up again, right? All right, so now let us just put in here a heading one, like learning. Let us just put in intro to JS like this. Then we open it in our we open it in our browser using live server. I hope everyone is able to do this on their own. If there is any question, let us know. All right, so if we all have this in our browser, that is perfect. So now we are going to see how we can connect our JavaScript to our HTML. Because JavaScript alone won't do anything right now, because we need to connect it with our HTML, because the purpose of our JavaScript is for interactions. Clicking on a button, swiping, filling a form and submitting it. That is what JavaScript will be helping us. And we normally submit our forms to our servers or our backend. So, but before we proceed, let us see if we can install in some JavaScript related extensions. So for extensions, you all know, we click on this this, just hover on them, because not all of us have the same arrangement, because you can choose to move these things. I can have it as the second, I can have it as the last. So I presume not everyone has the same arrangement with mine, but just hover on each, you'll see this one called extensions. And you can see all the installed extensions and also some recommended extensions, right? But as well as you have a fast file maybe called index.js. They will mostly prompt you your VS Code will mostly prompt you either as you start or within your midst when you're coding, they will prompt you some of the useful extensions that you can use. So therefore, no need to get worried if you do not have all the extensions installed. When they prompt you a suggestion to install whatever extension, just make sure that you look at its description and see if it is mostly used by a lot of people. But for now, let us install in this one. So everyone look for this extension called bracket pair categorization. This is going to help us to actually be able to identify our opening and closing curly brackets, because in JavaScript, we mostly use curly brackets. So please install this one. If you look at it, you will see that it has 1 million people using it, which is not bad. So please install it. Let's see another one. So installing it, just hit the install button, right? So another one that we can install right now is the ESLint. So this is an extension that helps us to identify some of the mistakes, and it gives us a certain coloring to those mistakes so that we get attention to see where the mistakes are, and we can actually be able to resolve them as quickly as possible. And you can always read more about the documentation. You can see they give you some description and they tell you to read more about the documentation. That one you can read. I think we should be good. Yes, for JavaScript, we should be good as of now. And for those of you who don't have this, this extension called material icons, let me search for it. This one. It is material icons. What it does, it just gives us a fancy or beautiful view about the extensions or the programming icons, the programming language icons. It gives us a beautiful icons for the programming language. So you can see them here. I think you can see this. If I try to zoom in, so this is how mostly some languages are seen. Like for JavaScript, it gives us this icon. If you don't have this installed, therefore you're using the default material or the default icons within VS Code. So therefore, please install that one. After installing it, you'll be prompted something telling you, do you want to use by default material icon or something else? I don't remember. Please choose material icons. All right. So I guess once you're done installing it, you have a different view now with your icons. You should have icons that look more beautiful. Are we good, all of us? So right now we haven't connected our JavaScript to our HTML. But before we even connect our JavaScript to our HTML, let us first play around with JavaScript in the browser, because we saw that JavaScript can be run by browsers. Let us try and play around with some JavaScript basic codes within a browser and see if that is the reality, right? So now, I hope I'm not going quick. All right, so Now let us head back to our browser. So if we're in our browser, I hope everyone already opened their HTML in a browser. If you're in a browser and right click, those with MacBooks, you need to use 2 fingers and just press or tap. So for some of you, you did not set the tap functionality on your MacBooks. If you did not set, then press. So then you'll see these suggestions. You look for the inspect property. So if you click on inspect property, don't think it will actually come out like this. It's because for me, I've been working on some things related to responsiveness, but you can always remove the responsiveness from when you come here. If I do like this, it will just show this bottom shift down, and you can always change its position. If you click here on the 3 buttons or 3 dots, which are vertical, which is sort of like morph, then you can see how you can change your bottom sheet where the consoles and so on are. So this is called the inspect console, and you can always change the side. You can have it on the left, you can have it on the right. I mean, this is the left actually. The other one was the right. But for me, let me take it back to the right. So, and I will just go ahead. You see, it has so many tabs here. There is elements, console, sources, network, and so on. You can even see more here. So go ahead and click on the console. For those of you who are not seeing it, please make sure you look at your top or your bottom so that you can see where the elements are placed. I'll just give you 30 seconds to do that. All right, I hope everyone has the console. If you already have some content inside, you can press this button, the button that looks like a stop symbol. You will clear your screen. That is for clearing your screen, right? I hope everyone saw that. This is for clearing your screen. In case you have a lot of things here, you can always clear your screen by pressing here, not refresh. You clear by pressing here. So now let us play with some JavaScript inside here. So JavaScript is a programming language. So any programming language can do basic arithmetic operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and so on. Every programming language can do that. And you're going to ask, why didn't we do that in HTML? I told you HTML is not a programming language. This is your first programming language that you're learning. HTML is a markup language, not a programming language, right? The same as Markdown language, it is also a markup language. So now, let us do some operations. If we do 4 plus 5 and we press enter, before we even press enter, you would actually see the 9. If you do 6 minus 2, you can obviously see that, right? But you need to press enter so that you go on the next line, so that you can type in other things. Try to play around with some mathematics, right? You can even do multiplication. Multiplication in programming is the star symbol. You get your result as 12. You can even try to do a bigger number. You still get the result. So every programming language can do can do all the computations, not only even simple computation, even the advanced computations, it can do them, right? So we are now able to do some operations, but right now we are not sure if we are doing JavaScript, because even any other language, as I said, can do that. Let us try to do some syntax of JavaScript. So let us clear the screen like this. We clear our screen by just pressing here. And now let us do a simple function in JavaScript. For those of you who are familiar with Python, we do print, but for JavaScript, it is called console. So we do console. Console has a lot of properties. You can have console with all of these properties. You can have console.log, console.error. These are the mostly used, but let us use this one, console.log. So what console.log does, whatever goes inside the brackets, whatever goes inside the quotes I mean, of course, but again, inside the brackets, these are brackets, right? Console is a function and every function should have brackets, but we shall come back to that when we start learning functions. But as of now, we're just trying to use something that is JavaScript so that we can see if our browser will be able to execute it, right? So console.log is one of the functions in JavaScript, built-in functions in JavaScript that can be globally accessed. So if we write console.log, whatever content we put in the quotes should be printed or should be consoled, as we usually say, even though we are using console function. It will be printed within our browser here. If we put in hello world, then we press enter, we can see hello world was printed. Can you see that? So if it was printed, then this is a confirmation that JavaScript can run in a browser. So we are using, specifically for this one, we're using Chrome, we are using V8 engine to be able to execute our JavaScript codes, even though we just have one line of code. This is called a line of code or a statement. We just only have one statement as console. And some of you might be asking, why did we get undefined here? What is undefined? So for functions in JavaScript, when they do not return anything, they automatically or they absolutely return undefined. So we shall look at what we mean by returning something. So for most of the function we shall be building, they will be for the purpose of returning something. But for this built-in function of console.log, it doesn't return anything. It just prints. It's not returning any value. So this is a simple example that JavaScript can run in our browser, right? Perfect. So now, after seeing that JavaScript can run in our browser, we can clear our screen. Let us look another one, maybe. Let us look another one. Let us look for this one, alert. Alert is also a JavaScript built-in function. And it usually alerts when we run this one, you'll see that you've so far seen this in most of the cases. If I put in hello world, JS is running. JavaScript is running. If I press enter, you can see this. Can you see this is called an alert? So you've mostly seen this on different browsers while you were browsing. So maybe alerting you some errors, or maybe alerting you any other thing, I don't know. But most of you have already seen this. So this is actually mostly achieved by just writing alert function, and whatever content we put in inside is what is going to be displayed here. So this is now JavaScript running in a browser, right? Perfect. So this is a simple explanation you can show that JavaScript is running in a browser. So now, let us now go into, let me hope everyone is able to achieve that, right? Let me hope everyone is able to run this in their browser. Let me just pause for 30 seconds so that if there are questions, please ask. All right. So if there are no questions, it means it is well understood. So now let us go back to our VS Code and now forget about this one. We are not going to be typing here, but we can obviously type in our file and be able to see it here. We are not going to be seeing it on the front end. So now, how do we connect our JavaScript file to our HTML? It is very simple. So we usually connect our JavaScript within our body, but again, from the last line of the body, before the body closing tag. This is where we write in our JavaScript, but again, in an element called script. You see? So this element called script, we can write in our JavaScript here. JavaScript can be written here. Before we even connect, we can always write JavaScript inside here. It's the same thing as we saw that we can write some CSS within the style element. When we come here in the head, we can write in here some CSS, remember, and write in body and do background color black. You will see that it is black now. If you just put in color of white, you'll see that it is white. It turns white. So here we can write in some CSS, but it's different from JavaScript because we have it before the body closing tag. We should have it before the body closing tag, but I will explain why. So let me remove these styles. I was just showing you that it's the same way we can write in the styles up there. So we can write in any JavaScript code in here. We can do console.log and we just say hello world. The same way we were doing it in the browser, right? And if we already have this one running in our browser, you can see it was executed, right? It will be executed in the browser even though it was written in here. I hope you can see that. And please try to test it and see if it works. And it will even show you where it is coming from. It is coming from the index.html file on line 13. If we look at here, it is on line 13. Even though it is in the HTML, but we already know line 13, it is JavaScript. From line 11 up to 15, it is JavaScript. It is not just HTML. It is JavaScript, which is inserted in HTML. So this is what we can say as an internal JavaScript writing. The same way we say the other one is internal styling. So we can also say this is internal JavaScript writing. Now we are going to see how we can connect an external file because that is what we should professionally do. The same way we now, later on when we said in CSS, we have also to introduce an external file, which is the best practice. And for JavaScript, it is also the same thing. We should have an external file for that, right? So now, let us now head over there. I hope everyone tested this and I hope it worked. If it didn't work, please ask. So now, let us now connect our JavaScript to an external file. We have already written that file. For JavaScript files, they should end with an extension of .js. And you even see the symbol JS. So we are actually learning from the beginning level so that you can understand it clearly. So please ask in case of any question. So every programming language file should end with the programming language extension. So for JavaScript, it is .js. For HTML, it is .html. For CSS, it is .css. Therefore, for JavaScript, please note it is .js, right? This will permit you now to write in JavaScript codes or JS codes. Please make sure you understand it when I say JS, it's JavaScript. So now, let me just write in console.log, hello John. Let us now change the phrase. So if we come here, we won't see it. The reason why we're not seeing it is because we haven't connected this external file to our JavaScript. And how do we connect this? We connect this by introducing in here a source file like this. And now we can put in our index.js. If your JavaScript file is in a folder, like maybe, let's say scripts, maybe a JavaScript are in a folder called scripts. If we take it there, we drag and drop it there, then therefore this one won't work. You need to first specify the folder and then go ahead with index.js, right? But this is not what I want to do. Let me just bring it back here and now delete the folder. And now I'll just go ahead. This is also possible, but as well, this one is possible. You can remove it because it is in the same directory as the file we're trying to connect it to. So now, remember in our JavaScript, we have in hello John. We expect if we go to the browser to see in the console, hello John, if this file was rightly or very well connected to our HTML file. So now you can see hello, John, right? And you can even put in more lines. You can do, again, console.log, hello, Sami, like this. If you come here, you will see it. And you even see where it was executed. It was executed in index.js, line number 2. And for hello, John, line number 1. You can see this is on line number 1 and this is on line number 2. Please understand what we call lines clearly, right? We can even put in some other, things. We can do alert. So when you start putting in an alert, of course, it will show. Therefore, I'll just go ahead and do hello. And then if we come back to our browser, we refresh. This one was the first one. If we refresh, we can see hello world. You remember when we are using live server, guys, we don't need to reload. Our server is running the changes as we are typing. So therefore, make sure to reload to make sure it captures the last one you wrote, right? So, but you'll never meet such a case. You'll never meet this case whereby you will need to just show alert just like that. It shows when you click somewhere or when you interact with something, right? All right. So I guess everyone now understands this very well, right? I'll just give you 30 seconds as I'll be changing my demo, as I will be changing my presentation, and I'll just kind of stop recording so that I can change the presentation because we're going to learn now JavaScript variables. We're not going to go deep into them, just to make sure that you guys do not just take home or just sleep with only the introduction, but as well some JavaScript like variables. So as you asked, so there is no difference between using double quotes or single quotes. Let me just remove the alert. The alert is disturbing. So if I just do console.log and now use double quotes and do hello, submit, it is the same thing, please. You can see it prints the same thing, right? Because there is nowhere your double quotes or single quotes are going to be shown. But be careful. Let's say you want to console something like this. That was David's key, like this, David's key. Can you see this? The other ESLint you installed will give you some errors. Can you see that? Sometimes these errors are not meaningful. Please, some of them are not meaningful. But you can see everything, every content we have should be wrapped in single or double quotes. But we are using a single quote here, serving a different purpose because we just said David is key. It is serving a different purpose to these ones, the starting and the closing one. So if you have an apostrophe, if you have, I think you all already know this English, right? If you are going to use something like this, like the normal English, therefore you are obliged to use double quotes because you have some single quote that is acting or that is serving a different purpose to these quotes, like surrounding your content. I hope that one is well understood. And now you will be able to see your apostrophe. Is it, what do we call this? The single quote here. But it's English, you know. That was David's key. So another thing, there is also somewhere where you will need now to use single quotes in closing the content rather than using now the double quotes. Like an example here. The person who asked this question really asked a good question, and this is something you should get in your head, please. So I might have John said. I don't remember how we used to write this. If you remember, John said he ate your banana like this. If you try to do this, this one will give you error. We should use now double quotes here. And you can't as well do this. You see, you should use single quotes now surrounding because you already have some double quotes representing a quote, right? Now you'll be able to see it. John said he ate your banana, right? Is this one understood? Please let me know if you did not understand this. I'll be pausing for 30 seconds. All right. So now, if we now understand, please, I need you guys to be asking. We are now into some serious things. This is not HTML or CSS. Please ask. That is why I'm kind of going slow and giving you some time to ask. So if we all understand this, now let us go to another presentation. So now we're going to look at what we call JavaScript data types. So data types are classifications that specifies the type of data you're using. If you write 2 plus 4, what kind of data are you using? So that is what we call data type. So what kind of data are we using here? Some might say numbers, others might say integers, but let us see what JavaScript says, right? You're not wrong, but that might be belonging to other languages, right? So now, in JavaScript, we have these types. We have strings, we have numbers, we have Boolean, we have objects, and we have also other types like undefined and null that are not on this list. We have strings, we have numbers, we have Booleans, we have objects, and we as well have undefined and null. Undefined is also a type, right? We should even actually add it in here. I don't want anybody. So undefined and as well null, right? Let us add it there to be more specific. So now, you can check the type of the data you're using by running type of and then the data value. Let us try this in our browser. Let us not go to VS Code. Let us try it in our browser. If I just do type of, you can even see it will start showing up and you can press enter. But if you press enter, it will assume in a browser. If you press enter, it will assume you're submitting, and then it will give you a typo error. So let us type it and finish it. And then inside, let us put in a 2. Did you see it printed out number? So type of is used to print the type or the data type you're using. It printed the number, right? But if we do this, type of, and then we do like this, hello world, what type will it print? It will print a type of string, which is the data type we just said, strings. It will print string as the data type. So everything that is in quotes, be single quotes or double quotes, it is treated as a string. Even if I come here and do this type of, and then put in here string, then 2, like this, it will be treated as a string because it is in quotes. We already know this is a 2, but it is no longer a 2 if you're a programmer. This is 2, but this one is string 2. This is number 2. So they are different. That is why type of is printing a different thing. The first one was printing a number because we do not have quotes. But the second one was printing a string because we have quotes surrounding the 2. So this is something serious in JavaScript, and most of the people actually miss this. And we shall see that when we come to inputs and forms. All right, so now, we just saw now how we can print a data type. So what is a Boolean? So a Boolean is a data type of true or false. Let me clear the screen. True or false. If we write true, this is a Boolean, and false is also a Boolean. So let us try our type of and see. Type of true. What it will print. It will print Boolean. So this property or this function helps us to identify the data type of something we put in inside here. I hope everyone understands this clear before we move on. So now let us move on to JavaScript variables. Then after understanding values that we have, after understanding types, strings, numbers, Boolean objects, I left out objects and defined them now because I will explain it later. Right now, I don't have a way of explaining it in a browser, but we'll explain it later once we go on these JavaScript variables. So variables is an interesting topic, if I would say, because this is where JavaScript starts. So understand variables as identifiers. That is why I had to put it in brackets. So a variable is an identifier or a container that stores data values. We have seen data types. Those things we are putting in, they have a certain data type. This thing here, it has a data type of Boolean, but this thing is called a data value. I hope that one is that one you can understand it obviously, right? So this thing has a data type of Boolean, but this thing right here is called a data value or a value, right? If we do type of 2 like this, 2 is a value, and it's a value or a data value, and its type or data type, it's number. Let me hope you do not get confused. So the item itself is a value or a data value, and then what it prints when we do type of is a data type or a type, right? Now, as we were looking at variables and we were saying,
Question.
yes, please. Can you please ask your question?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, can a boolean and the number both go in type of?
What is causing the noise? Are you with somebody who is also following up this? Or you have two devices connected?
No.
Taylor, you're with Sami. Sami must mute. That is why it is bringing this noise, I guess. Can you speak up again? Sami just left. She should have just muted.
So, can you
Yeah,
hear me?
yeah, yeah. We can hear you now.
Yeah. So I was asking, like, you just explained that the types of like booleans, numbers, and so on. I wanted to ask. I wanted to ask, like, can both of them go in at once in type of?
Yes, we can have different data types in one variable. Like let's say we shall look at when we look at objects, we shall see that objects can contain different data types or values of different data types. It can contain a
Oh,
number, a Boolean, or even a string in
yeah, but
objects.
can it contain together?
No, we will never print something like using type of, and we see like string number or object number. We will never have that.
Oh, okay, okay.
We'll never have
Understand.
that. So even though objects can contain different data values, which are of different types, numbers, booleans, and strings, but when you do type of that object, it will print data type of object, not
Yes.
string, boolean, number. We shall look at
Oh,
that.
okay. Thank you.
All right, so now let's come back to JavaScript variables. Variables are identifiers, and these identifiers act as containers for storing data values or for storing values. And we have a way of how we declare variables. Please, this is very crucial. We declare values, using certain keywords, using var keyword, using let keyword, and using const, which is constant keyword, right? Let me go to my VS Code now. And Who can tell us how we can do comments in JavaScript? Let us say I want to do a comment of variables here. We already have a way everyone knows. On your computers, it's a shortcut. You can always do. Yes, tell file, you're right. But there is also another way, even though you don't know the syntax of comment, you can always do command /, command and the /, or control and the / on Windows users, right? So it's 2 // and whatever comment statements you want to make, that is how we do a comment, right? So now variables, if we come to variables, you can always use these keywords. You can use var, or you can use let, or you can use const. And let's comment this. And you can actually also have comments for multiple lines by using the / and having them inserted inside here, like this. Like this. This is called a multi-line comment, like this. This is a one-line comment, and this is a multi-line comment. And usually people beautify it this way. Whatever things you do, people like to beautify it this way, like this. I usually like this also. When you look at my codes, that is how I usually do comments. Let me open like one backend, and you see, that is how I usually do my comments. If I go in the roots, like maybe payment route, you see, this is how I usually like to do my comments. It looks beautiful, but as long as you only have a / and one star and ends with another star and a /, it will be a multi-line comment. And these things after, these ones in the middle, you can put them there by yourselves to look beautiful, but we just need only a / and a star and a star and a /. That is it, right? Like this, the way we have it here. If I remove this, it is a multi-line comment. We just need this. A multi-line comment is a comment that takes over more than one line, you understand, right? So now, variables can be defined by these keywords. Variables can be declared, we call it declaring, can be declared by the 3 keywords in JavaScript, right? We're in JavaScript, of course. There is no need of mentioning it once again. So we can declare our variables by using keywords like var, let, and const. Let me hope everyone understands this. So we are going to look at these 3 keywords and see how we can use them, and we shall call it a night. So now, let us see how we can use var. If we say var full name equals, then John, let's say this is my name. So we are declaring a variable called full name, which is acting as a container of a value John Nyanwan, like this, right? Because it is a string, that is why we are putting it in quotes. Everything that is in quotes is a string. Therefore, all the things that look like alphabets should be in strings. Names of people, of any other thing, they should be in strings because these are strings. So this is a keyword, this is a variable name, and this is its value. And this is called an assignment operator. We are assigning this variable to a value called John Nyanwan. Right? You can as well say var and say maybe favorite fruit, and then you say, you can put there a single quote, and then you say banana, like this. I will explain why I did this. You can see this naming convention is weird. This is a capital letter because favorite and fruit are 2 words. We combine them whereby we need to make sure that the second name should start with a capital letter. And this is what we call camel case. Camel case naming convention. And this is what everyone is advised to use in JavaScript. Different programming languages use different naming convention. You'll find in Python, they do this. Python, they will do this. Full name, like this, John Nyonwari, like this, in quotes. If we are in Python, this should be valid Python. If I create a file here called Python index.py, this should be valid Python. You see, there was no error. Because for it, you don't need to add there a keyword for, you don't need to add there any keyword if you want to declare a variable. So I'll just delete this way in JavaScript. So I was just showing you a difference. So camel cases, you just start with the first name with all small letters or all lowercase alphabets. Then the second name, or the second item should start with a capital letter. And that naming convention is called camel case naming convention. You can see I had to put here a comment by using two forward slashes so that this one doesn't appear in my quotes. It is a comment. Comments are not ran. They are not ran. This is not going to be run in our browser, but this one will be run. If we come and do here, console.log, full name, we'll see our full name in our browser. If you go to our browser, you can see our full name here. Do you see that? Let me refresh again. Let me refresh this again and you see. This is my full name. If I do also console.log, you won't get these citations until you have the extension of .js. You shall get extension, or you shall get citations related to the language you're using. So now, if I do favorite fruits, it will give me the auto-completion. I can press on it, then I should be able to see the value here. Did you see that? I hope you can see that. Let me explain this once again. So we're learning about variables, and variables are identifiers. So variables are certain words that store certain values, or these are containers for values. So this is a container of this value. And a variable is usually declared by a certain keyword, then the variable name, and then an assignment of operator, then the value. This is the syntax. It's simple. Val full name equals to that, right? We are using val. But again, we can still do the same thing with let. Let. I just replaced val with let. We should get the same thing, you can see. And I should do the same thing. Const, please, for now, you can just follow. Maybe you can just follow along because this is very important. You need to look at my screen. I did constant, it still worked. Then the question comes, what is the difference? What is the difference between var, let, and const? If I can still be able to use it. So this is where now the difference comes. I'll just delete this. If I come and do var, let us start with var, full name. This is also camel case because full and name are two words, but some other people treat it like one word. I've seen so many people doing this. They mostly treat it as one word, which is okay, And full name, and if I come and give it maybe Nwari King, like this, and do console.log full name, like this, you can see the full name will be, so it was refreshing. You will mostly get these errors when you're using live server because you understand it is refreshing the browser as you're typing. Therefore, you need to just refresh like this. So you will usually get those errors because as you're typing, it is also reloading every time. So therefore, you need to refresh so that you can get a clean thing. So you see the name is printed here. If I come here and do again like this, var full name, and give it another name as, let us give it a girl name, maybe Ungari Lilian. We didn't get any error We did not get any error. Please look this carefully. We did not get any error. If we come in a browser, what do you expect to be printed? Let me ask this question to anyone. What do you expect to be printed? Let me ask this to Samuela. I check Samuela. What do you expect to be printed? What do you expect to be printed in the browser? This one, do you see it's the same variable name, right? Are we going to see this one or this one?
I think the first one.
We are going to see the first one. Why the first one?
I just thought it was the first one.
You should give us a good reason. As we saw in HTML, we saw that codes are read from top to bottom. CSS, top to bottom. It's the same thing. Whatever is at the bottom should override whatever is at the top. So I just gave you a hint. What will be printed?
The bottom one.
The bottom one.
Yes.
Why?
I don't know how to explain it, but you just gave us an explanation, so that's what I went on
You
for.
should have repeated the same explanation, but it's okay. So since codes are read from top to bottom, this is going to override the first one because it's the same variable. So in our browser, we should see Umgali Lydian, which is this one. Did you see that? So how do we call this one? What are we actually doing right here? You see, we have full name. We have also full name here, but we are giving it different values. We are assigning them different values. How do we call that one? It's English. I'm asking you English, guys. I need somebody to try. I'm waiting for the answer. So right now,
Mic check.
okay, I think we have an answer from somebody. Check, check,
Mic check.
check, Chris.
So, so I think how the browser is convert the source code to the compiler, it's read the code line by line. So I think that console.log will display the last full name. That's our Umngari Lydian because the browser will convert the source code, like they read the code line by line.
Yeah. Yes, that one is well understood, and thanks a lot. So, but the question was like, what am I doing here? So there are two things I'm doing here. You will tell me one. So there is what we call reassigning, and there is also what we call redeclaring. So what are we doing here? Are we reassigning or redeclaring?
They are saying
We are reassigning.
yes,
Like how?
because the first variable we store the Umngari king, and the second we we signed a variable called Umngari
Yes,
Lydian.
that one I understand because the word reassigning comes in. But remember, variables can be declared by three keywords: var, let, constant. We have also here a keyword, which means we are doing what? Redeclaring. Do you understand that? So we declare values with these three keywords: var, let, and constant. If you see that we have here a keyword, then it means we have redeclared, right? So reassigning looks like this. I'll show you reassigning in a few seconds. So this is redeclaring. So this is reassigning now. So you have var full name, which is equal to Nwari, King, and we also have here full name equals Nwari, Lilian. This is reassigning because we did not declare. Can you see that we did not declare? We only say that we have declared if we see a keyword, which is either val, let, or constant. So this is called reassigning, and this is called redeclaring. So which means, in other words, let me type it here. Val allows redeclaring and reassigning because we did not see any error. If we comment this like this, we shall see still Umali Lilian on reassigning. It will still print out the last one, as you say. But please make sure you understand the difference between this and this, the difference between redeclaring and reassigning. Redeclaring is if we use the same variable name, but again, we are declaring it again. That is to say, we are using a val or a let, a constant, right? If you did not understand this, please let me know. Let's see. Yes, somebody had already answered reassigning. But please understand the difference. This is redeclaring and this is reassigning.
Back check.
Check,
Back check.
check.
Yeah, I was asking, I'm confused about if putting var and not putting it is the same. What the reason for putting var? Because on the second you're signing if putting var on full name and
I
being
get you now.
what?
I get
Yeah,
you.
okay.
Should we change this and you see? Should we change this to first, maybe to something like, instead of using full name, should we change it to first name like this? If we do this,
No, I'm
we shall
asking.
get an error.
No. You shall get an error.
We shall get an error because we don't have anywhere else we have this first name declared. This is not declaring, and this is a total error. I don't know why my browser is not refreshing, but if we try this, if I comment all of this like this, and we try to do first name like this, we shall get a syntax error. Let's see.
But it is there.
Let's see. Did I miss something? Let's see. Let me cancel this. Let me inspect again. We shouldn't actually have this behavior. So does it mean the browser doesn't detect this? Allow me to use the console here. This is abnormal. This is abnormal, very abnormal. Unless if you already have this declared somewhere, otherwise you shouldn't just write it like this in JavaScript. You should always declare this, unless if something changed lately, because otherwise this one doesn't have any declaration. I'll check this and see maybe probably it is getting a certain variable by default, because you already know JavaScript versions are changing day by day. But again, I advise you, please also check this one out. Check it on your own. We should always have a keyword to declare our variables. You can check this right after the call. Check. Mic check. If you're speaking, please, I can't hear you. Mic check. Okay. So I think I had somebody speak. So as I was repeating this, I don't know, maybe this one probably changed later on, but usually in JavaScript, please hear me very well. In JavaScript, you should always declare your variables. Otherwise,
Sorry,
you'll
mic
get
check.
other errors. Yes, please.
So I was asking, what are the difference between there is the sum operators of resigning operator. So what are the difference
That
of
one we shall
by
come back to it.
using that operators and that?
So let us first stick to this one, because I think you're trying to refer to this or that, the three ones, the equal sign, this one, and that one, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes, we shall come back to this later on. So, but what I'm trying to mean here, please always declare your names. So this is just a simple file where we are just doing one line, and so on. It's not a general, these are not general codes of whatever you'll be writing in your files. Like, let's say if you have a file of maybe a function of maybe concatenating two names. So always please remember to declare, even though we just did it right now. But later on, as we study, maybe we shall see, we shall cross-check this as well. Let us read and see if this one was lately maybe approved or something changed in JavaScript. We can always read about this later on. But please, for now, make sure you declare your variables. Please make sure you declare your variables, and please, right after this session, read. Right? We might be doing it right now and it works, but if with just many codes, not just one simple statement, it might fail. And usually we get errors, right? But we shall also verify this later on as we continue. But please make sure you always declare your variables. I'm repeating it once again, please always declare your variables for now, right? And you will see why in a minute. So let us move on with this one, and I show you how the differences with these ones. So we've just seen that val allows redeclaring and reassigning. But let us now look at another keyword. Let us look at another keyword called let, and you see the difference. So let is our second keyword. Let us have now, should I comment this one out or delete? Let me just comment it. Let us say let full name equal to, maybe, let us use the same thing, John name, like this. So if we try to do this, look at this. If we try to do this, let full name equal to Mwadi King. Did you see that we got an error? And the error is saying cannot redeclare block scoped variables full name, variable full name, which means we cannot redeclare with let. We cannot redeclare with let. Using val, we were able to redeclare, but using let, we cannot redeclare. Please make sure you understand this, as this is going to be very important when you start writing larger functions or even larger statements. By statements, I mean codes with more than just one line. So I hope you understand now the difference between let and var. I hope you understand it. So you can declare it once, but you cannot redeclare it. You cannot redeclare it unless if you use a different variable to the one you used before. But let us see if it can be reassigned. Reassigning is possible. If you just write full name, and we only reassign if we had already declared the name. I hope, David, you understand this one. Yes, you can check that one later on, but you can't just write in JavaScript something like this and just say maybe without a keyword, but you can reassign it when you had already declared it. So let me just comment this one out. So if I just say full name and say Noir King, you see there wasn't any error. Can you see this? There wasn't any error right now, because with let keyword, we can reassign. Let can be reassigned. So now the difference between let and val is this one. With val, we can do both. We can redeclare and reassign. But with let, we can only reassign, but we cannot redeclare. Is that one clear? Any question about that? As you saw when we try to redeclare, we get an error. And the error says cannot redeclare block scoped variable full name, because full name is a block scoped variable. Block scoped variables, these are variables that cannot be redeclared, right? So, but if I comment this and comment this, you can see it can be reassigned. This is reassigning because we don't have a keyword, please. Because we don't have a keyword here, right? I hope this one is well understood. So now, let us now look at constant. Constant also has a difference with the two. If we do constant full name, and we just say, we use the same thing, John, like this, and then let me comment this one also, so that it doesn't conflict. We cannot do this, full name equals Noah King. You see, we cannot do that, because it is also a block scoped element. It cannot be redeclared. Constant cannot be redeclared. Let me comment this so that I can do another thing here for reassigning. If we do reassigning now, look at this. Nwadi King. Nwadi King like this. Can you see that? But I think my VS Code has a problem. But let's see. Can you see assignment to constant variables? It didn't show any errors. But you can see in the browser, we cannot reassign constant variables because they are constants. If you even refresh it, you will get the same error. So constant variables are not reassigned. I don't know why it is not bringing errors, because probably my computer is tired, but you should always also check in your browsers. Constants cannot be reassigned, and they cannot be also redeclared, right? So I hope you understand the three. So var, let, and constant. So I want to try something else in a different setup, because I didn't understand how we can actually just have a variable without defining it. So let me try it maybe in some of my, but as well, let us read about it, right? So let me say like create user, I have this function. Let me try to do something. So you can see here we have constants and so on. Let me try to do maybe email equals John. Let me, how am I going to test this one? No, let me test it somewhere. Server.js. Test it somewhere here. Email equals John. Let me just test this one. Console.log email. Let's see if we do not get any errors, because this might be a change that came in JavaScript, and a very good one. But again, we need to know what keyword does this have. So now if I run this, did you see this? Did you see the error? Reference error, email not defined. Because we don't have any variable here. But if we put here like var, you see we didn't get any error. So please be careful of these errors. It's because right there we are just working with just one statement, and it will not reveal to you that error. So please make sure you're very careful about this. If we change it to this, you will get an error of reference error. Email not defined, because we don't have it anywhere declared. So this is what I wanted to try. So we're just having this workout here because we're just having just some small codes, one line. We're just having one line statement. The others are comments, you know. So therefore, make sure you declare all your variables, right? I hope this answered you. Let me just undo the changes here. I hope this one answered you, right? So please always make sure you declare your variables. You can't, in JavaScript, it's not possible. In Python languages, we do not have keywords for declaring. You can do that. But in JavaScript, you should always declare your variables, right? So now let us wind up our session. So we have just seen about data types. We've seen that we have different data types, which include strings, numbers, Boolean, object, and defined and null. We have also seen that we have a way of declaring our variables. Variables are just containers containing data values. We can declare them by just using val, let, and constant. We should always make sure we declare them with those three words. And as you've seen that those three keywords are different, val can be reassigned and redeclared. Let can be reassigned but not redeclared. Constant can neither do both, cannot be reassigned or redeclared. So those three have differences. And we shall see that in most of the cases, we shall be using constant and let. When we start learning higher things, we shall see that in most of the cases, we shall be using let and constant. The reason why, because val has setbacks. If it can be reassigned and redeclared, then that is a setback itself in coding. Because in most of the cases, we do not want to redeclare and reassign. But in cases where we want to do that, we can use val. All right, so as I said, I would also explain about objects and defined and null. Right now, we have exceeded our time. Let us keep this for another time because this one is now a bigger topic. We shall look at objects because within objects, there are what we call real objects and also arrays. So arrays is not a data type. If you write an array and print out its data type, it will show you that it is an object, right? So arrays are things that look like this. Let me just remove this. We do constant, maybe fruits, and we do something like this, banana, and we do orange, and we do an array is a list of things that belong to the same family. These are fruits, right? They belong to fruits. So if we have in maybe here apple, and if we do console.log type of, because we want to console it in the browser, type of fruits, then we come to a browser, we'll see that it's an object, not an array. And the same applies to the object. If we do an object maybe of users, this is an array which contains object. You can have a user with an ID of 1, can have a full name of, no, let's just do first name, or maybe John. You can have another user inside. These are now an array of objects. These are objects, while these are arrays. Now we can have another user, maybe with 2, and then we can say first name, maybe Angel. So inside here, we have an array. I mean, we have an object, real object, what we call real object. So, and the real objects can be put or can be nested in an array. Mic check. Mic check. Did I hear somebody speak? All right. So I was saying real objects can be nested in an array. So if we just take out this one only, and maybe we say constant user, just user, and we paste it here. So this is an object, but this is an array. Let me put it back here. This is an object, but this is an array of many objects. By saying object, I'm not speaking of data type object. So these are called objects as their real name, but these ones with these square brackets are called arrays as their real name, but their data type, both of them are arrays. If we do data type of user here, you can see it's an object, right? Even if we remove this one, actually, to not confuse you, this is an object. If we come and do user as the data type, we shall see that it's an object. Let's refresh. It's an object, right? If we also do data type of fruits, we shall see it is also an object. But even though this is an object, and as well this is an object, there are names by names. This is an object and this is an array, right? But by data type, they are both objects. Let me hope this clarifies the difference. But we shall learn about these ones later on because we even have a lot to cover on arrays and objects because of their properties. They have properties that we use in most of our daily coding life. So now, let us end our sessions. Do we have anybody with a question? Do we have anybody with something that they want to clarify? So again, I repeat, always declare. Always declare your steps. Do not just do something like this, right? You should always declare with a constant or a var or a let. But we shall see that we mostly need to declare our variables with either constant and let. And constant will be mostly used. We shall look at that later on. So, do we have any questions?
None.
Okay. If we are good, then let's call it a night. And please,